Superheavy Samurai took a major hit on the most recent ban list, with the Link 1 being outright banned shortly after the deck was released. So we've already seen a bunch of combos from other people on what the Superheavy Samurai can still do, and that can still put up some good boards. But what I want to look at is how Superheavy Samurai can help a deck like Zefra. So in today's video, I'm going to go over this list I have in front of me, talking about the cards I'm using, why I'm using them, and then we're going to go over 3 combos using the Super Heavy cards. So we're going to jump straight into it. We're playing 3 copies of Motorbike and 3 copies of Wakaushi. Most of the combos are 1-card combos with Wakaushi, which you're probably quite familiar with, considering that's how most Super Heavy Samurai combos start. So we're playing 3 of each. They are completely interchangeable. We're playing 2 copies of Big Benkai. You could possibly just play 1 of this card, but I like to play 2 because I don't want to have to think about what drawing the card means for my combos. So that's why I'm playing 2. We're also playing 1 copy of Super Samurai Soul Horns and 1 copy of Super Heavy Samurai Soul Gaia Booster. These are essentially the exact same card. They're a Super Heavy Samurai Soul card, so they're searchable off of Big Benkai. They both target a Super Heavy Samurai card on the field, and then they can special summon themselves while they're equipped to that monster, which is pretty strong. This is a level 1, this is a level 4, this is why we are using these versions of the cards. We're playing 3 copies of Zefra and 2 copies of Zefra and Yang, 1 copy of Zefraxi, and 1 copy of Zefra Pelika, I'm going to call it. These are all the Zefra monsters we're playing in the deck. Zefraf is very good for getting Zefranu into your extra deck, and he becomes a scale 7, so he's essentially Foolish Burial, but goes to the extra deck. Zefranu is the most important card in Zefra because it allows you to search for your Zefra spells and traps. We're playing 2, we're playing Oracle of Zefra, and we're playing Zefra Divine Strike. I'll get into why I'm not playing Providence in a moment. Zefraxi is a Yang Zing by name, the same as Zefranu, which is very, very strong. He's a 1 scale, and he can turn himself or another Zefra card on the field into a tuner. And we're playing 1 Ritual Beast Tamer Zefra Pelika because it's reborn and that could come up. And I just wanted 1 extra Zefra name that wasn't a extra copy of Zefraxi. For the Yang Zing monsters we're playing 1 Suwani, 1 Jiaotu, and 1 Chiwen. I wanted to play both the tuners because the levels are going to matter depending on what we're synchroing with, and I want to play 1 non-tuner, which is a 4 for rank 4 players, as well as just having a non-tuner to synchro off with. For the Magicians, we're playing 1 Harmonizing Magician, 1 Oath Dragon Magician, and 1 Purple Poison Magician. Essentially, we'll be searching the Harmonizing Magician off of Beyond the Pendulum, and these are 2 targets we can use to special summon. I wanted to play a 6 and a 4, so we can go for 8 and 10 synchros, as well as being able to go for rank 4s. We're playing 1 Sword Sword of Tyre. This is searchable in Engine, so I am going to play it to add an extra interruption to the board. Right, getting on to the spells and traps we're playing. So the reason I'm not playing Zefra Providence is because obviously the Super Heavy Samurai cards really don't like having spells and traps in graveyard, to the point where they're completely not usable if you do. Oracle of Zefra is going to stay out of field spell zones, so that doesn't really interfere with them, and the traps will go to graveyard, but the hope is if you have resolving the traps, you're winning the game anyway, and you're just going to push for lethal on your next turn. So I didn't want to play Zefra Providence because I didn't want to get into a scenario where I've resolved Zefra Providence and then the Super Heavy Samurai combos become available for some reason. So I'm not playing Providence. You could, but it would make your lines possibly a little bit more complicated. But Oracle of Zefra is a field spell which has the mandatory effect to add a Zefra monster from your deck to your hand on activation, and when you use a Zefra card as material for a summon, so Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, XZ, but not Link, you get to apply some form of effect. The only one we are really interested in is when we Synchro Summon, we can choose a monster from our deck and place it on the top of the deck, and when we XZ, we can draw a card and then discard a card, which is cool. Zefra Divine Strike is a Omni-Negate counter trap, so when a spell trap card or monster effect is activated, you can banish a face-up Zefra monster in your extra deck and negate the activation if you do destroy it. We're playing 1 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing, which is the exact same thing for Yang Zing monsters, except it destroys a Yang Zing you control. So this needs to have something on the board, this needs to have something in the extra deck. Both are searchable. For the hand traps, I'm playing 11. We're playing 1 copy of Bestial Druris Worm because it's searchable, 3 copies of Ash Blossom, 3 copies of Droll, 2 copies of Nib, 2 copies of Bell. You could change these hand trap lineups to your liking, and you may want to side other hand traps for other formats because every single hand trap in this deck is searchable via a combo, which I will show you in a little bit. The Druis Worm is here because it's good against Mathmech. The Droll is good against pretty much everything. Nibiru is interesting against some things. Bell hits Branded, and Ash hits Branded. So like if you're playing Branded, you can search a copy of Ash Blossom, which is quite cool. No side deck today. In the extra deck, we are playing Gallant Granite. So we are playing this because it is possible to go to Wakaushi into Big Benkai to add the Soul Gaia booster, special the Soul Gaia booster, and then overlay for Gallant Granite, which searches us our Zefra. That would give us Zefra and Big Benkai in scale, so you can send the Zefranyu, and you could do a bunch of stuff like that. I'm mentioning that now because I haven't recorded a combo with the Gallant Granite line, but it's pretty self-explanatory and pretty simple to do, and there's other videos on YouTube showing you about how Gallant Granite is ridiculous in Zefra. But yeah, we're playing this. It can also search Nib in a pinch, so that's something to keep in mind. For synchros, we're playing a lot. We're playing one Herald of the Arclight for our 4. This is pretty easy to get to. It is just a Omni Negate, so we love it. One copy of Denglong. This is the heart and soul of the deck, and that is why I have decided to start playing around with Superheavy Zefra, because this card is so easy to get to in Superheavy Samurai, and it does so much in Zefra. We're playing one copy of Sword Soul Grandmaster Chisho. Because we are playing Zefra cards, we have non-tuner worms, so we can go into this card, and that can search as a tire, which gets us an extra interruption. So it turns what would be a normal Synchro 8 into 2 interruptions, because we can go for the Chisho to search the tire. We have a negate on our opponent's turn, and we can use the tire to go into another 8, like an Excel Stardust Dragon or a Borrowed Savage Dragon, or something to that sort of liking. We're playing one Savage and one Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon. Obviously, this can go into Baron using either Motorbike or the Jiaotu, and Savage Dragon is just Savage Dragon. We're playing one Croc. This is used in the combo where we search a hand trap. We're playing one Chaofeng. Sometimes you can just use Chaofeng and you win the game. Like if you go up against Superheavy Samurai and you make a Chaofeng with a Zefranyu and a Zefraxi, your opponent can't activate the effects of Earth monsters, and the majority of their deck is Earth, other than Wakaushi. So that can just win you games in like games 2 and 3 when you know your opponent's on Superheavy Samurai. So it's quite cool to play. One Baron de Fleur, one Bestial Dispatter. In my last video, I had Bestial Dispatter in the extra deck and had no way of summoning it because I forgot I took out the Bestials. But in this deck, we do because we're playing Excel Stardust Dragon. So we can use Axel to bring back a 2 and then go into the Bestial Synchro. And that's obviously either a pop or a negate and also special summon stuff back. One Link Karibo, one Beyond the Pendulum, one Nightmare Unicorn, one Appaloosa, and one access code for our Link monsters. Pretty self-explanatory except for Link Karibo, and you'll see why we're playing Link Karibo in the combos, which we will get to now. So I have 3 combos to show you. This first one is going to be what you can do with just a copy of Superheavy Samurai Prodigy Wakaushi. So we're going to start by activating our Wakaushi and using the effect to scale Big Benkai and special summon himself, then use the Big Benkai to search for this copy of Superheavy Samurai Soul Horns. We can use Soul Horns effect to equip itself to the Wakaushi, and then we can special summon the Soul Horns by its own effect, and then synchro off for a copy of Denglong. We can trigger Denglong Chainlink 1 and Wakaushi Chainlink 2, putting it in the Pendulum Zone. Denglong is going to search a copy of Suwani, and then we can use the second effect of Denglong to send a Chiwin to the graveyard, making Denglong a level 1. Because Denglong is now level 1, we can link it off for a copy of Link Karibo, which is really, really busted. This allows us to trigger the third effect of Denglong to special summon a Yang Zing monster from the deck, so we're going to special summon this copy of Zefranyu. Zefranyu doesn't trigger here, but we can link it off with our Link Karibo to go into a copy of Beyond the Pendulum. We can then use the effects, paying 1200 life points, to search for a copy of Harmonizing Magician from our deck. From here, all of our stuff's negated until we Pendulum Summon, so we might as well Pendulum Summon 3 monsters. We'll special summon the Harmonizing, the Suwani, and the Zefranyu from our extra deck. This will trigger our Harmonizing Magician and our Zefranyu, Harmonizing to special from deck, and Zefranyu to add from deck to hand. Our Zefranyu will add Zephyr Divine Strike, and our Harmonizing Magician will summon a copy of Oath Dragon. From here, we are going to synchro off, the Oath Dragon gets banished, and we'll go into a copy of Baron de Fleur. From here, we can Baron, pop the Suwani, trigger the Suwani and the Chiwin in our graveyard. The Chiwin special summons itself, and the Suwani will special summon a copy of Jiaotu from the deck. From here, we can synchro off our Jiaotu and our Zefranyu for a copy of Sword Style Grandmaster Chisho, which, when it triggers its effect, will allow us to search for a tire. You'll notice we haven't used our normal summon in this combo so far, so we can spend our normal summon on this copy of Sword Soul Tire. From here, we can banish one of our worm monsters from the graveyard, special summon a token, and synchro it off for a copy of Savage Dragon, equipping this copy of Link Karibo from our extra deck. We could then set our copy as Zefra Divine Strike and pass the turn. So what we have here is a Monster Negate in Chiazhou, an Omni Negate in Savage, an Omni Negate in Baron de Fleur, and a Omni Negate in Zefra Divine Strike. So 4 negations total, 3 of which being Omnis. And as I think I'm going to say here, we could have just searched for the Jiaotu rather than searching for the Sawani and popping it with the Baron de Fleur. However, if you have any other monster in hand, as well as Wakaushi, which is quite likely considering the majority of the deck is monsters, since we're playing 11 hand traps, you could Pendulum Summon that monster, and then you can just link off the Beyond, the Chi-Win, and the monster you special summon to go into an Appaloosa, which not only makes sure you have 3 negates from Appaloosa, it also means your Borrowed Savage Dragon's bigger because you can equip one of the Beyond the Pendulum rather than the Link Karibo. So just something to consider, and that's why I decided to search Sawani in this combo, despite the fact it wasn't exactly necessary. So we're going to go into the second combo here, which is Whack plus any Yang Zing monster. In this case, we are using Safraxi. So we're going to start by scaling our Wakaushi and using the effect, and we're going to do the exact same thing we did in the first combo, searching a copy of Soul Horns off of the Big Benkai, equipping and special summoning it, and then going into a copy of Denglong, scaling the Wakaushi in the process as Chainlink 2. This Denglong is going to search for a copy of Suwani, and then Denglong is going to send Chi-Win, and then Denglong is going to go into a copy of Link Karibo, which of course will trigger the Denglong to special summon a copy of Zefran from the deck. From here, we can link into our Beyond the Pendulum like we did previously and pay 1200 life points to search for a copy of Harmonizing Magician. We're now locked out of our scales and our monster effects, so we need to Pendulum Summon, so we'll Pendulum Summon 4. We'll summon everything we did previously, but in addition to that, we will be Pendulum Summoning the Zefraxi. From here, we're going to trigger the Zefran and the Harmonizing Magician to special summon the Oath Dragon and add the Zefra Divine Strike. We can then synchro summon, putting the cards in the right place to go for a copy of Baron de Fleur, and pop our Sawani like we did in the previous combo, but this time it's actually got a point to it. We're going to special summon the Chi-Win, and we're going to special summon the Sawani. Not Sawani, we're going to special summon the Jiaotu off of the Sawani, which is going to allow us to go into... if it's going to work. There we go. We could go into Appaloosa here with the Zefraxi and the Chi-Win and the Beyond the Pendulum, but in this instance we're going to go for Herald, just to show that you can. So we're going to put another Omni Negate on the boards, and then we are going to synchro off our Zefran and our Jiaotu to go into a Sword Soul Grandmaster Chi-Shao and search for a copy of Sword Soul Tyre. Sorry if you could hear my cat meowing outside the door. We're going to grab our Tyre, and we are going to normal summon it, banishing the Denglong, summoning a token, and synchro summoning into a Savage Dragon, which again can grab a copy of Link Karibo, and we're going to set a Zefra Divine Strike. So in this combo, we have 1 monster negate, 4 Omni negates, sorry, because we have the Zefra Divine Strike, and we could have an Appaloosa here instead of the Herald, which would have 3 monster negates on it. That could be better in your opinion. It really depends what you're going up against. I tend to prefer having an Omni negate, and it also has a little bit of a floodgate effect, to monster negates and Appaloosa, especially when there are kaijus in the format, because this kind of forces them to kaiju 1 of your Omni Negates, which leaves you with 3 Omni Negates, or if they kaiju your Appaloosa, it leaves you with 3 Omni Negates, and that's kind of it. So I think I prefer the Herald of the Arclight in this instance. Anyway, let's go on to the next combo, which is going to be Superheavy Samurai Prodigy Wakaushi plus Oracle of Zefra, which is essentially a Yang Zing or a Zefra card, since you can search Zefraxi, but because it's specifically the field spell, we can do some other fun stuff. We're going to do a hand trap search combo here. So we're going to start by scaling a copy of Wakaushi and scaling our copy of Big Benkai from the deck and add a copy of Soul Horns like we have done previously. Equip the Soul Horns, special summon a Denglong, Wakaushi Chainlink 2, Denglong Chainlink 1, and we're going to search for a copy of Suwani. We can then use Denglong to send a copy of Chi-Win from deck to graveyard to make our Link Karibo. Our Denglong can then trigger its effect to special summon a Zefran from the deck, and we can link summon into a copy of Beyond the Pendulum, which of course can trigger its effect to search for a copy of Harmonizing Magician like we have done in every other combo so far. We can then activate our Oracle of Zefra before we Pendulum Summon to search a copy of Zefraxi. We want to activate the Oracle of Zefra here rather than previously, because if our Denglong gets ashed when it goes to graveyard, we can use this to search for the Zefran, and we can essentially do the exact same combo, because we could normal summon our Suwani, I guess, and then just make Beyond the Pendulum that way. From here, we're going to Pendulum Summon 4, so we're going to summon the Zefran, the Zefraxi, the Harmonizing Magician, and the Suwani. And then we are going to use Harmonizer Magician and Zefra and Yang in sequence to search Zefra Divine Strike and special summon a copy of Oath Dragon. From here, we're going to banish the Oath Dragon and send the Harmonizer Magician to the extra deck to special summon a copy of Baron de Fleur. And we should have triggered the Sophraxis effect on Pendulum Summon to make it a tuner, which I forgot to do. But we do that on Pendulum Summon, so he's a tuner. So we can synchro off with the Zefra and Yang to go into a copy of Ravenous Croc. This means we can trigger our Croc and our Oracle of Zefra in sequence, allowing us to put any hand trap or any monster we want on top of the deck, and then Croc, when he resolves, will just draw the top card of a deck since we use one non-tuner. This allows us to essentially add Draw and Lockbird to hand in this instance. If you know what you're going up against, like let's say you're going up against Mathmech, you can add a copy of Druiswam to hand, which does a lot of work going first into Mathmech, since it's really difficult to get the Druiswam both off board and negate the effect to pop your Access Code Talker or something along those lines. But in this instance, we're adding Droll because it's a little bit more generic, I guess. From here, we can activate the effect of Baron de Fleur to pop our copy of Suwani, triggering our Chiwin in the graveyard, allowing us to special summon the Chiwin, and also special summon any Yang Zing monster from the deck, in this case, Jiaotu. From here, we can link off our Chiwin, our Jiaotu, and our Beyond the Pendulum to go into a copy of Appaloosa. Here we can set the Zefra Divine Strike and end the turn. So what do we have here? We have 3 monster negates of Appaloosa, a pop from Croc if we discard 2 cards, which we definitely have because we only use 2 cards to do this combo, so we have another 3 cards in hand as well as the Droll. And we have Baron de Fleur, which is obviously an Omni Negate, and we have Zefra Divine Strike, which is another Omni Negate. So 5 negates, a pop, and a Floodgate hand trap like Droll. And Lockbird, which is quite strong. So that is the final combo I've shown for today. There are plenty of other stuff you can do with this deck. I've lost connection. Don't you love it when Dawning Book does that? Anyway, there's plenty of other stuff you could do with this deck. You could play a whole host of other cards in the extra deck to combo off with. Like you can play Ancient Fairy Dragon. You could pop your Oracle of Zefra to search for any Floodgate you want. You can play a copy of the Draco Slayer card. I forget what her name is. You can play a copy of Majesty Pegasus the Draco Slayer to search off your Beyond the Pendulum, and from there you could search for, say, Secret Village of the Spellcasters. Then you could lock your opponent out of spells as well as putting a couple of negates on board. There's plenty of stuff you can do with these sorts of combos, and honestly it's really quite consistent because you need one of your copies of Motorbike, one of your copies of Wakaushi, and even if you don't, if you have like cards like Oracle of Zefra or Zefrath, you can just do Zefra stuff, and you have so many like tuners, non-tuners, hand traps. I've really quite enjoyed playing this deck. So that's the end of the video. If you did enjoy, I really would appreciate it if you left a like, comment your thoughts and maybe your improvements in the comments. I don't know why I'm asking you. You guys always do. And yeah, subscribe for future content, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.